I love that she spoke about that. I'm going to start. We're trying to figure out what to talk about, and because so many of you have been in just 2-3 years, except for my two buds, 03 and 04 maybe. I'm an 03. I'm a January of 03, and so I thought we'd give you a little bit of my history, and which is Young Living history, which is your history and your legacy as well. So a little bit of my story, and that is that Jim's aunt told me, I want to say it was the fall of 02, about Young Living. And she's like, I love this lavender oil. And I'm like, yeah, that smells nice. And, right? That was Gary's response when someone told him about oils too. Oh, those things that smell good. And so then in January of 03, she called. She lives in San Antonio, so 5 hours south of us, and said, hey, I hear the guy who runs the oil thing, Gary Young, is going to be in Dallas. And I said, okay, great. So I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anything. But I went one night to hear him speak. And I'm sitting there with my planner, and I'm in the back of this ballroom. And he's showing these pictures, and it's like blowing my mind. Like he's showing pictures of distilleries, like ancient distilleries, thousands and thousands of years old, in Israel, in the Middle East, and I'm like totally blown away. So then he puts up a picture and says, we just this week we just bought the only American-owned organic lavender farm in Provence, and distributors can go. And I was like, I'm in, where do I sign up? And so I opened my planner, and I had this little picture that was a little card of a lavender field in France that I'd been carrying around for 5 years, and I was like, someday I'm gonna go, and it's not gonna just go like to see it, like I wanted to work on it, but I didn't know what that looked like. So I'm in the back of that room about 9 o'clock that night, and I was like, this is what it looks like apparently, and where do I sign up? Like, I don't even think I had my membership yet. I did by the time I left that night. So, because I was going to France somehow, I didn't know how. So he said, someone's gonna, you can write this lady, and so we had to write a paper, and like I saw it in this little magazine they sent out literally an evening, weeks later, and it said, you have to have I had to write some little why I should be chosen to go, and it had to be in by midnight that night. Like, I'd been calling this lady for weeks, and she never called back because she was on the road with Gary, so I didn't know, and I just happened to see this. So Jim was on the road, and this is like practically pre-email. And so I faxed my thing at like 11:30 at night, and so I get this call 3 weeks before the trip takes place that says, you've been chosen, and I'm like, I gotta figure out a way to make this happen. So I did, and they had 2 weeks going, and the week before we left, the ground war in Iraq started, and you know how well Americans were looked on in France at that time. And so nobody wanted to go. So it ended up they canceled my flight 20 minutes before I left for the airport. And I didn't know anybody going on this trip. I owned 3 oils to my name. This was April of 04, right? This is less than 3 months later. And so I'm calling, I'm like, no, you gotta get me there. And this is American Airlines, right? And you need to get me there. I'm meeting these people that I don't know, in a place that I don't know where it is, and like, I gotta be there tomorrow. So somehow figured out a way, and it was crazy. I got stuck in Paris, and I brought my Swedish backpack along and spoke only Swedish, because Americans were really hated at that point. So it was very strange how I got there. And those times when you're like, God closes a door, but he opens a window, and I kept thinking, are these all closed windows? How hard do you go? Kind of a thing. I'm by myself with just a carry-on bag. So I end up getting there. Everyone else had gotten there. This lady comes and picks me up the next day, and she says, well, Gary got rerouted too, so we're going to go pick him up. And I'm like, okay. So we get to this little airport in Marseille, and she says, now help me find Gary. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know what he looks like. I saw him in the back of a room once, but this was like, she's like, how do you not know who he looks like? I learned that week, but I didn't know then. So we get there, and only 7 of us show up. There's supposed to be 14 of us. And then the next week, there's supposed to be 13 people, and all of them canceled. So ended up getting to stay a little longer. So we spent 10 days with Gary, the 7 of us. And so we would go and work in the farms all day long. And so this is what it looked like. This is pre-digital picture, by the way, too. So this is and we were cleaning these fields of stones, because the stones, come up in the fields, so you have to clean those out, before we could plant lavender. And he had just bought the farm there, and this is in La Sémillon, France. So you see the little town, Sémillon, in the background. And so we're picking up these boulders, and I had a bad back, but man, I was so happy to be there, I couldn't see straight. I wore everything I owned every day, because it was freezing. And then at night, Gary would go work out, because he was training for the bodybuilding competition. And at night, he would come back, and he would teach the 7 of us in this little room upstairs, in this little chateau we were staying. I called it the upper room, because it just kind of was like that. And I knew it was special, but I didn't know how special, right? You don't know that it's going to be $1 billion company, and you just heard about oils and it just smelled good. So we end up planting lavender in these fields after we de-rocked it. In fact, I was pulling up stones, and I was picking up things that were looked like bricks. And the photographer, Young Living, had hired to take pictures. I said, "What are these things? They're like paved stones or something." He goes, "Oh yeah, this is part of the Roman road. It went right through here." And I'm like, "What?" And I said, I totally want to take this home. He's like, "Oh, you can. I got a bunch at my house." And I'm like, "Okay." So when I got home, like I said, I only had a carry-on. When I got home, we're with Jim picking up this bag. He's like, "What, you got rocks in here?" And I'm like, "Yeah, as a matter of fact, I do." So I still have those stones that I took out of there 13 years ago, 13.5 years ago. So it was an amazing time, and we really did some kind of groundbreaking work there. But he would teach us things. So he had said one thing about using 2 oils for a skin condition my dad had. And I remember coming home, and my dad was like, "Oh, your mom's using this lavender," and wiping me out. And he said, "Is there anything you think I should use for the skin condition?" I'm like, "Well, Gary said da-da-da-da-da." So one of them was the lavender, and another one was another great oil. And so he applied that and went to the doctor a month later, he was asked to come back, and they said, "Hey, you're here to do X, Y, and Z." And he's like, "Yep." And they're like, "You don't have X, Y, and Z." And he was like, "I know. I need my own bottle of lavender and my own other bottle." And so this is how things happen, right? It's all about experience. So we want to have people have an experience, whatever that is. Somebody told me the other day, "Oh, my spouse, my friend, oh, they don't like this oil, they don't this." I said, "I don't care what oil they don't like. Find one they like, and then go from there," right? This is what we want to do. But anyway, we learned some amazing things that time. And how many have been to Young Living when Jean-Noel, maybe, and Jean-Marie were there? I don't know that he's brought some of them from France over, but this is his mentor. And Jean-Noel, the Gregerman standing up, he has run the farm since the beginning. And Jean-Marie sitting down there, he and his father had farmed that area for generations. So it's an amazing thing. They loved Gary coming in because so many of the farms are going out of business because the kids don't want to pick up the family business because there's no money in it, or things are just work on a computer instead. So when Gary comes back in and says, "This is the way to do things, this is the original lavender," and bringing things back from the lavandine, which is a hybrid of lavender, has its own properties, but it's not the true lavender that we use for other properties. So to sit there and learn each night from them. And Jean-Noel had this little copper distillery, and so we were taking not all the plant material, but just the lavender buds, and we're making just on a really small scale to be able to show us from this old, hundreds of year old little distiller to actually get oil out of it, how they used to do it. Now Gary, has cookers that fit bajillion people in them. So you can see the oil, just like we have at the farms, right to the top there, and then the light yellow is all the floral water. And it's amazing. So, again, I knew it was special, I just didn't know how special. So somebody comes and said, hey, we made this La Samia farm sign, and Gary said, oh, that's gonna go over the farm. And we're like, well, that's neat, but I really didn't know what was going on. So then all of a sudden this photographer's taking pictures of us with this, cool sign that they're hanging up. It's actually being held up by like a crane at the moment for this picture, but you don't know that. But there's one lady on the far right, I'm on the far left. On the far right, Sharon. I see her, she's bold, I believe, in the business. But all the other ones aren't there anymore. So it's one of those things, right? What makes you stick in? What draws you in to do something with Young Living? And part of that was this time with Gary. I just learned so much, and I was just like I can't go back to my non-oily ways, right? Life was worse, right? Because I didn't have things that could help things. So this is one reason I'm so passionate about people getting to farms, because it can change your life, right? We talk about seed to seal, we'll talk about seed to seal, but until you're there going, man, it really is seed to seal. It doesn't really make sense. So that was April of 03. So August of 04, and let me go back to this part, because I can't at the moment. Gary rolled out this blueprint that he had brought from Utah to France. Big old, blueprint tube, and he rolls this out. And he's like, this is our farm at Mona, Utah. And again, I didn't know anything about anything. And I looked at this thing, and he's like, so we're gonna have this western city here, we're gonna have this medieval city here, we're gonna have jousting over here, and I'm like, this man, you're crazy. What is he talking about? It was 2 years ago. I am at convention, and I really hadn't thought about that. And I'm at convention, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm like, oh my gosh, those blueprints I saw in 03, this is it. It's all become a reality. So if you want to know what's going to happen in the next 10 years, just ask Gary now. I'm sure he's got the blueprints for it. Oh my heavens. So then in August of 04, I tell my mom, hey, they're doing a lavender planting and harvest in St. Mary's in Idaho. And this was the very first farm. And she's like, oh, I love that. My mom loves lavender, we love to be outside. So we go up there, and how many have been to the St. Mary's farm? Been up there for Gold Retreat now? Yeah, it used to be Silver Retreat. This was where I went for Silver Retreat. And it's a fantastic place, right? There's no place like it. I say that about every farm, but it's true. Because there is no place like any other place, right? It's just reality. But, so we were in tents. Y'all didn't see, the shanty town going on here. This is what we were living in. And now they, build places for you to live in, or people stay in hotels, and we were in tents. This was my last time camping, by the way. This is how much I love Young Living and would do for Gary. Is I lived in a tent for the week. And this is where I met our upline, Eldon Niddle. Come to find out, Eldon and his wife Nancy lived, as the crow flies, 15 miles from my house. But I went to Idaho to meet him. I didn't know that. So Eldon taught me to drive the big old John Deere. And so we were grinding up some dirt, that's what we were doing. And Eldon can fix anything. Just like Gary, they can do anything with any piece of farm equipment, anything that needs fixing happens. So he was a great videographer, loved to video everything. So one early morning, I was walking out and I saw Eldon out there videotaping, and this is just my favorite picture. So Gary was cutting lavender, but we were also planting lavender. And just to watch this machine that he had brought over from France, and of course, things happen to it, and it needs to be fixed, and he Eldon would fix everything. And it was an amazing time, so get to drive with Gary for the lavender. And there were, I don't know, there were probably 15 of us up there. So it was just a special time to get to know people. And I think of that on the retreats too. I really encourage you. I can't wait for you guys to go on your silver and your gold and your platinum retreats, because that's where you get to meet people, cross-line friends, and as you grow in the business, you develop such great relationships with them, right? And then you get to go back on Facebook and keep up with them and encourage one another. It's just a fantastic time. So pitchforking and St. Mary's, when he built this was the state-of-the-art, at that point, distillery. And Gary makes out of the stainless steel. He actually designs and has all these made totally by his own design to make sure that the best oil comes out of it and to maximize the plant material. Love it. So yeah. So you just stuff your pockets full of lavender and you go do some dishes. Like, we didn't even have of this 1990 mom jean thing going on there. But just ignore that. But I smelled really good for my backside anyway. So they were just building, it was just kind of a makeshift area for us to eat. This was Idaho Tansy before he started distilling Idaho Tansy. And that is, he said it's a weed in Idaho, like people want you to get rid of it. So he'll go and mow a field of it down and then take it back and distill it. We get Idaho Tansy oil out of it. One of our great things in our pet line, because it's terrific for bugs and that kind of a thing. So, still one of my faves. You can see Eldon there on the left in the red shirt, and Gary. Eldon was always total right hand to Gary, and just, they're best friends for 30 years. They just knew each other frontwards and backwards. So he was always teaching us when it was, planting the seedlings, planting the seeds, all of that. He was just teaching every moment there. So this is actually in the town of St. Mary's, and here's Eldon and Gary. They just left that bus, like we had one bus, right? This is all we needed. And so this bus would come, like, pick us up at the airport and take us to work, and then, but we didn't do all these cool things like rafting down rivers and all these things that you guys get to do now. So neat. So Eldon, let's talk about our lineage. Eldon, like I said, can fix anything. So many of the things that you see on the Mona farm, like he either found for Gary, because Gary would say, hey, I really want a steam engine pulling machine or something like that. And Eldon would find it, either at an auction or something. And most of our big rigs, Eldon also did all the research and found those. He and Gary actually were driving truck, what they call it, truck drivers, way back when. They didn't know each other, but they were both driving on the Alcan, right, the Alaska Canadian Highway, where our Northern Lights farm is up there. They were driving on it at the same time. Didn't know each other, like 40 plus years ago. So they have an amazing background that finally brought them together. And it was actually in Dallas that Eldon and Nancy went to hear someone speak, and across the hotel ballroom was another room that Gary was speaking at. And some lady had an issue, and Gary came out, and Eldon came out at the same time, and they literally met over this woman that was having some issue, and that's how it met. So they met. So when Eldon and Nancy, this is your upline, and our upline diamonds, when they hit diamond, it was a big deal. It was fantastic. And so they knew Gary before Gary met Mary. So like before Young Living was Young Living, Eldon and Nancy were working with Gary. So that's your lineage, like it is, and we're all under Nancy Sanderson, who is Gary's sister. So know that kind of history. So, so the top of the time there's, Nancy Sanderson's at the top. I want to say it's like 3 levels down are the Niddles, 2 or 3 levels down. And then we're 5 levels down from Eldon and Nancy. And then that's their leg, yeah. So Eldon passed last, last summer. It's one of my favorite pictures. Nancy carries on, and she has been, you know, like every year for the balsam, every year for the balsam harvest was such hard work, right? There was no Highland Flats distillery. So Gary and Eldon would drive down in the middle of the night in horrible, treacherous, freezing conditions, and from chipping all day in the fields, and then drive down in the middle of the night to St. Mary's to distill the balsam. And so he would leave like after Christmas, and he'd be gone for like 5 weeks. And so Nancy would take care of all things business, and she always has. She's been amazing. So thanks to Young Living and all of their work for years and years and years, she's well taken care of now, right? So this is the thing that when we talk about, oh, I don't want to make money at this, or I don't want my friends to think that I'm trying to sell them something, you know, whatever that is. And Jim's going to talk about some of that poverty mentality today, because we all deal with it at some level, right? That there are many ladies in our company. Deborah Rayburn's one of them. She lost her husband, and she had a Young Living business, but it was small. And it is what has, I mean, she's a World Crown Diamond with, you know, amazing leaders underneath her. And Shauna Dastrup, same thing. They were diamonds when her husband passed. So it's an amazing legacy, right? That you get to choose to work now for later. So, and now for that matter. But it's a great legacy that everyone in this room has. So I want to encourage you to, yeah, love that. There's something else I can tell you about that. Anything else? I love that picture. You know how much Gary loves to joust? And so Eldon would be whatever they call the jouster's sidekick. And so he loved that. Nancy was always like, I don't know why they do that. And then Mary's like, I don't know why they do that. So we'd all moan together when they're all out there trying to not kill each other. And so I want you to have an idea of what it took, like early days when nobody knew about essential oils. Like they used to get, Gary had two products, right? Vitagreen, it's not multigreens, Vitagreen and Comfortone. And they would get these bottles in boxes, and the labels had fallen off. So you don't know whether you're selling somebody Comfortone or Vitagreen. Totally different products. Yeah, the oil labels were handwritten and would also sometimes fall off. So you really didn't know until you cracked that seal, right? What you had. So kind of hard to. So they really like sold. This was before it was in a multi-level marketing format. So they were kind of the warehouse. So they traveled a lot with Gary when he would speak and things like that. and helped him and encouraged him and always have. And so Eldon, all of the farms except the last two, he has actually totally gone and built with Gary. So that was months in Ecuador, you know, through crazy rain and, I mean, you wait till you see the Ecuador farm. But what they did together was amazing, and it was for us that they did it. And it was really for the seed to seal, right? Because they believed in that so heavily. So this is our Ecuador farm, actually. So let's talk about some of the seed to seal. How many love that we have this? I mean, it's brilliant, but it's, you know, we just say it's not a slogan, it's who we are, right? So, I mean, I love it as a slogan too, but it really is who we are. So, when people ask, you know, what sets Young Living apart, what makes Young Living different, you just saw two things that make Young Living different, right? Our founder, of course, and the farms that he dutifully purchased and built, and despite many hardships in some of these places, did incredible things to make sure that we have our oils today. And I love this because he studied so much in the harvest. Wise advice he was given by one of his French mentors, Dr. Bayou, or Mr. Bayou. He said, there will come a time that if you do not grow it, you will not have it. And that is why Gary and Young Living invest so heavily. The farms are expensive to run. No question. You just go to Mona and you see all that happens at Mona, how many people we employ, all the things that go on, and you think, holy smokes. But I want you to go and go to a harvest or go and work in the fields and you're picking weeds for a couple hours. You're like, they don't charge enough for lavender oil, I tell you. This should be $1 gajillion per bottle of lavender oil. This is what it takes. So all that goes with that, that's what the investment in that seed to seal is. So of all the essential oil companies out there, why would you choose Young Living? You know, a mere 3 years ago, it was really not why Young Living, but why essential oils. People didn't even know really about essential oils. So used to be, I've never heard of them. What is an essential oil? That is really not the question I have to answer hardly ever anymore. So, I mean, today you can buy in a health food store. Where we had breakfast yesterday morning, they had, oils. Ooh, and I always just want to say something like, yeah, you'll stop by. Nicole, stop by. Take care of that. All right, good. But I always think, they're selling them at Barnes & Noble. What does Barnes & Noble know about oils? Give me a break. You're buying your oils at Barnes & Noble. We have a whole nother issue to talk about. So, Gary's the one who has brought in the 20th and 21st century essential oils to America and then to the world. The French model, the British model, German model, they have been around for a long time, but very isolated in their countries and really not brought into the rest, and certainly not to America, right? So the answer is pretty simple, right? The Young Living is the world leader in essential oils, period. Right? You all believe that? I want you to believe that because it's the truth. And truth is what you should be believing in. So our commitment to purity and stewardship is embodied in a unique proprietary process we call the seed to seal. And no other company can match what we do to ensure that purity. So I love that. So let's talk about, am I flying through these? Oh my heavens, why did I say that? All right, seeds. Look at these seeds. So when people talk about, they plant or it's organic or something like that, there's so much more than that, right? Now we know about GMO type stuff, but the seed comes back. Y'all know the story of Gary, how the seeds got to Spokane, Washington? Is he actually took the lavender seeds in France and hid them in his boots, right? So they weren't taken away at customs, and planted those seeds in his boots in the ground in Spokane, Washington, in a little bitty plot, and that was the start. So very much like the wine industry, that those those starts were all from France farms. So was our lavender. And what happened to the grapevines in France happened to our lavender a few years ago in France. And that was a blight came in, a virus actually came into the lavender and wiped out all of the lavender in France. And nobody had anything to restart with because all they had was what they had in France. Except that Gary brought seeds back years ago to the U.S. and cultivated this amazing, right, Lavandula angustifolia, our actual true lavender oil. So that is what we had. So he brought that back to France. Same thing happened in the wine industry. Big blight took out so many of the wineries, and they came to California and said, we need some starts. We got to start over. And they had those what do you call those original seeds, those original plants, the original vine from what was in France to the U.S. and back. So I love that Gary does that. And so he tries to grow as much as possible anytime it's here. I think that often, like of the Ningxia wolfberry, what if China were to close tomorrow? He's tried to grow wolfberries at all the farms. You'll see little bushes at the Mona farm, right? And just like to try to grow frankincense all over, it only likes one place in this world, and that's only the Middle East. So, you know, there's no guarantee that we will have all these things, right? When things happen in our world, politically and economically and everything. So I don't take that for granted, but I love that he says, okay, so we have balsam fir in North America, we have Palo Santo in South America, we have frankincense in the Middle East. So every one of these continents has something similar to frankincense in its, not only its botanical lineage, but also what it does, the properties of it. So for him to go out and find these things, what do they use in all these different parts of the world, helps us, right? So if something goes down in one part of the world, we're going to have something to help us still from another part of the world. So that investment is so amazing. So we grow our own. We know exactly what the ground has in it. The ground is fed organically with compost made from our own clean plant material. So people say what we call the plug after things are distilled, and the steaming plug of used plant material comes out of the cooker. It goes into the compost pile, is composted down, and spread into the fields again. So there is nothing wasted at all on our farms, just so that you know that. The packaging in our roll-on bottles, that beautiful round packaging now, that is actually post-consumer, shall we say, in terms of our plugs and everything. That is from the wood chips and all from our Highland Flats farm, made into that. So that is our whole goal, is to make sure we close loops everywhere there is. So for our Northern Lights farm, Gary said, well, we have all this wood chip. What if we pressed it all? And I don't know if they use that much here, but they use those pellets. They're like sawdust pellet type things to heat. So Gary's like, well, we can take all that material and like press it into pellets if we get a pellet machine, and then we'll sell that, and that will help fund, you know, the farm. This is how Gary thinks about it. Like, nothing's going to waste. So I just want you to know all that goes into that. It's pretty amazing. And these slides right here, you can actually get these in the virtual office under member resources. Like, invite some people over, show them the seed to seal. Say, oh my heavens, I can't wait to go to convention next year because I get to go to one of these farms and get to see this whole process. So great. Cultivate. And living farms around the globe, right? Dedicated to perfecting our responsible and sustainable growing and harvesting methods. So this is the thing, like soil preparation and balance of sun and water. So I'm at the Ecuador farm and we're like, hey, what's growing under the banana trees, right? Because he has all these beautiful banana trees, and those bananas go and they feed the kids at the school. But he has ruta, as in ruta vala, the ruta plants underneath the banana trees because they like to be shaded in the afternoon. He always calls them hers. She likes to be shaded in the afternoon. She likes the afternoon shade. And so that is so true. It grows better when it has shade in the afternoon. So he'll get another foot or two out of this if he plants them under the banana trees. So who knows this stuff, right? This is the stuff that comes by trial and error, figuring this out, listening to what locals do and have done for, hundreds or more years. So it's an amazing process with that cultivation. Responsible and weed and pest control, our essential oils go back onto the plants for actual weed and pest control. So he developed a thing in Ecuador years ago. I kept thinking every year, every convention, I think, ooh, is it coming this time? But he has this great research of putting digyes into the soil to repopulate the goodness in the soil after it's been stripped out of things with chemicals and all, because of the amazing properties of the oils in that blend. So I'm hoping it comes out. I keep hoping it comes out. But that's what he uses on our fields. So it's not like, oh, once we pick it, we don't, put anything on it, or once it's only a certain height, because there are companies that will be kind of somewhat organic. Well, they weren't sprayed once they started giving fruit. They were sprayed when they were small. I'll hear that from companies. You're like, but it's less, sure, but it's still chemicals, right? So ours is zilch. I want you to know that. All right, distillation, authenticity. Isn't that beautiful? That one in the middle, you can just see so much oil. We use a gentle technique for steam extraction, essential oils. I remember that first time in France, literally we watched this happen because they have what's called co-op distilleries. So it isn't like Young Living owns their, well, we do now, but all the growers, it's called Lavender Growing Association there in France, they would all harvest and they'd all bring, and your plant material might go in with someone else's plant material. And it was literally the beep, 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 the Dow chemical truck backing up, dumping chemicals into the distiller, and in 15 minutes, that oil would be extracted out of the plant material. Well, everybody knows, if you're around Gary, that just extracting lavender oil should take about an hour and 20 minutes-ish, and with steam distillation, but they want to do it quickly, and they did it with the chemicals. So even when they've already sprayed their plants and things with oils, right? Because they're not picking the weeds out, they're spraying an herbicide on there, and they're not keeping the pests out naturally. They're doing that with chemicals. Then they put the chemicals in there to extract, which makes another toxic chemical, blending all those chemicals together. So there's reasons bottles that you buy at the health food store say do not ingest, which should also mean don't put it on you or don't smell it or all of those other things, right? But we think somehow that's different than this, even though skin's our largest organ. Anything you put on there. And so Gary says, I don't make anything that goes on your skin that you can't eat. That might not taste good, but it's not going to be dangerous to you, right? for any of that. So I love that. One of my next favorite things is the test on this. So we test the authenticity of all of this, right? Gas chromatograph. And I'm just going to, this is how detailed we get. The gas chromatograph measures the percentage of different plant constituents in the oil. The mass spec identifies the names of each constituent in the oil. The refractive index measures the density of the oil using a concentrated beam of light. Then the specific gravity measures how heavy the oil is as compared to water. Then the flash point ignites the oil and tests it against standard flash temperatures. And then the optical rotation measures the molecular structure of the oil. Feel tired of hearing that yet? Like, that's not all we do, that's just some of what we do. Every batch that comes in, every distillation that we do at our own farms, right, the test quickly determine if the oil has been subjected to dilution, cutting, or adulterated processes, right? So even from our partner farms, it happens. Let me tell you this story. So I really didn't understand who Gary was my first trip. I did by the end of the trip. But middle of the trip, I'm out in the fields, and this guy like comes up, and he's like running. Gary's like, not wanting to talk to this guy, and I'm like not knowing what's going on. And so I start asking like, what's that guy doing? Who's that guy? And he was, I want to say he was Italian. He heard that Gary was in France, flew to France that day to beg him to take him back. Once something has been found, like an adulteration or something in your oil, you off the list. Like, you try to pull one over on Gary, there's not a second chance. He flew in to go to the fields to beg Gary for a second chance, and Gary's like, ain't happening. So I saw right there, like I didn't know much at the time, but I saw right there one shot, and that is because, no, you just won't try to do that. I won't put it, if I won't put it on my own kids, and use it for me and my wife, I'm certainly not going to sell it to you for you to do the same. So I love that. Young Living only seals and ships that meet both purity and potency standards, right? Just want you to know you have the best. Seal, using state-of-the-art equipment. When you go to the Mona Lavender Farm, you actually get to see this whole process. And it is fascinating. If you go to the warehouse, you get to see how the oil, all the testing that goes on, and then how it's actually bottled and sealed. And I mean, everybody's like in hazmat suits because we all want, just great purity. So it is an amazing process that we do. And we bottle at each of our farms, actually. Gotta go to convention. Who are y'all convinced that you should go to convention yet? Like, it is worth it. Can I just say, what a stinking deal it is? Like, this month, Young Living has that you can go for like $99 every day, even at $189, which is the pre-sale price, which is going on now. Every day you are there, it's like, I got more than $189 out of that day. They give you more stuff than $189. So, it's an amazing time, and I just encourage you to be there. So here are the things that we ensure Young Living has control of every step of the process. We own 8 farms. Now we have partner farms, right, with many around the world. So this personal direct involvement in the growing process is what allows us to ensure that each product delivers the purity and efficacy our members expect, right? Because it is expensive to run your own farms and to find them all over the world to grow what you want to do. So, other executive teams that have now moved on to other weak essential oil companies, right? Worked hard at convincing Gary that the farms cost too much and cut into profits. And the stewardship, is not innate in everyone, for every company, right? And when you look at multi-level marketing, so often it's, we have a business plan, now we're looking for a product to sell to operate this compensation plan. Young Living has always been about the product, always will be about the product. It was literally about 3 years ago before they even started teaching business classes because we all wanted them so badly at the convention because it was all product education. So Gary's always been about the product, so know that you have the best there. So who here has been told by a copycat company or another essential oil brand, oh, you should use our oils? So anytime I hear that, like especially after today, you should be, so this should be your response. This is just, oh great, I love to go to herb farms and everything. Where are your farms so I can go and visit? And like crickets, like they got nothing. So it shuts them up so quickly, like I don't even have to go any further than that. So that's just always a nice, positive, yet effective way to stop that conversation and hopefully lead to, I'm going to our farm, in June I'm going to the Utah farm, or I just hit silver and they're gonna, Young Living's sending me there, or I just hit gold and Young Living's sending me to the Idaho one, I just hit platinum and they're sending me to Ecuador, right? Where have we been on diamond retreat? France twice, Croatia farm, Hawaii, the Santa We're going to Australia in May for the Blue Cypress farm. Let me just tell you that I love seeing these pictures of great memories, being there with a small group. It's awesome with y'all. right? We believe in you guys so much. We know you can do this. Jim calls me the, what do you call me? Many things. Oh, that's right. The 11-year overnight success story. So it took me 11 and a half years to hit diamond. So no, it doesn't matter how long it takes me, whatever. If gold is your option because that will bring you home, from a job that takes you away from your family or that you don't like anymore, or, that's bad for your health or whatever that is, man, make that your goal and just do it. Keep doing it. What if it took you 10 years? I'm like, what else would I be doing 13 and a half years that allows me to work with my husband and, travel the world and get to talk to great people like you guys? I mean, like nothing, right? I was a marine biologist for years. Y'all know that? Like, I got out of grad school, I got offered a job at the Smithsonian and the Natural History Museum, my favorite Smithsonian museum. So I was honored, of course. But it was like $35,000 a year to live in DC. And okay, you go home and look at your own income disclosure statement and tell me how laughable that is now. Oh, it's in your program, the income disclosure. Look that up. What's $35,000 a year? What level is that? Right, a silver paycheck. Or you could work Smithsonian with a graduate degree. For the government, never mind. All right. I'm moving on. All right. Mona, Utah, we got to talk about. This is where we grow some amazing things. There's lavender, hyssop, clary sage, which you always get to see in June, peppermint, goldenrod, and more. Since 1995, we've had this farm. Recently, we've had einkorn grain, right? So, home of the world's first automated distillation process, and site, of course, our silver retreat. Love Mona, so beautiful. German chamomile on the left, some clary sage on the right. Then we have our Highland Flats, Idaho. This is where winter harvest takes place, and this will start taking place in November, December, and January. You can go and work. But they feed you really well. They feed you great food. You get to talk with Gary and some people. It's just so fantastic to be with people who, enjoy the same things and you learn from. It's an amazing time. Totally encourage that. So it's a site of both winter harvest and spring planting events. And it's yet another farm that our members can go and enjoy the seed to seal process, right? Firsthand. Third newest distillery in our Young Living family. It's only 2.5 years old. So we grow and distill Idaho balsam fir, western red cedar, pine, and Idaho blue spruce. Other conifers there. Very fun. St. Mary's. Woo! It says St. Marie's, right? So you always want St. Marie's. They call it St. Mary's. It's like Staunton, right? So St. Mary's. This 200-acre pristine farmland was Gary Young's first farm purchase, right? This is site of gold retreat. And they only grow lavender, melissa, and Idaho tansy there. That is it. So it is one of my faves because it was the first, of course. And then Guayaquil. Oh my golly, Guayaquil. This is where Young Living sends you for platinum retreat. McManus says, I'm so excited for y'all to go, and you guys get to go next year. Okay, lush virgin fertile soil around the equator, right? They grow from the seed up. They grow corn, organic corn to feed the goats and the kids and all that. 5 weeks, seed to picking. This is how fast things grow there. So the ylang-ylang will grow and flower in 8 months. We're in Madagascar. It takes about 2 years. So the amount you can produce there is amazing. So we have our rare botanicals such as eucalyptus blue, ylang-ylang, our cacao, dorado azul, acatea, Ecuador oregano, mastrante, and palo santo. Who got their free palo santo this month? One of my faves. Fantastic for respiratory support. Yeah, you should all have it and be diffusing that this month and year. And so Gary makes it to go through the systems in there. I love that. Whew. So fantastic. This is on the left, this is what he bought. They had to go through people with machetes before they could bring actual machinery because they couldn't get through that first. Now, like on the right, 44,000 ylang-ylang trees. There's that corn. Like I hardly knew what that was. Have you ever seen corn that color? It's like amazing. And the goats, Gary's been wanting to bring goat milk into like skincare products and things for a long time. Just it's figuring out the stability and all those things that go with that. But that goat milk and things goes with people at the clinic as well as the kids. And then once they get the corn off of the husks go into a whole other thing that, and then these are all of the farm worm beds, huge worm beds. He brought, I forget how many thousands of California redworms there. And it is just cement box, huge row after cement box, huge row of worms. And they poop out this loveliness. And so you can put all this waste in there, they eat it out, they poop out, and then you take, it's like, I don't know, little bitty seeds, kind of look like little bitty ball bearings with gloves. So you take this out of bags and you put a handful in when you're planting your Palo Santo trees, right? Because it's amazing for Palo Santo. Oh my heavens. So that on the right there, that's Gary with, that is the oregano. Like, I didn't even know what it was. It smells like oregano, but not like our oregano. And it's big, soft, fuzzy leaves, like totally different. And on the left there, that is from the small distiller. So, they're taking little bits, distilling in little bitty bits to see, is it the right time to harvest everything? Everything is such a process. And then Simeon, of course, extra special place in my heart. This was our third farm, right? So first was St. Mary's, then Mona, and then the Simeon. And this was my first one, so I got to go back there. That was Jim's first diamond trip in August of 14. After that trip, he said, diamond is life for me, I'm on board. So do it before, start with your spouse before you hit diamond, and it's more fun. So he loves it. It was an amazing place. It was such a homecoming for me, just knowing like this is where I started, not knowing anything, and being back there with Gary was an amazing time. So there's Gary cutting einkorn in the background. On the left is a picture that used to be on the catalog after we were there the first time. So you see in the background the city on both of those. Yeah. And so when they harvest the lavender, you see those people on the right in the fields. It is a family with pitchforks, and they're turning over the lavender as the truck dumps the lavender out in these rows, and they'll turn that over until the bricks are just right and the sugar's in it just right so that he can get the maximum amount of oil and the best oil out of that, and then it will go and he'll start distilling it. Northern Lights Canada, purchased in 2014, right? So this is where our Northern Lights Black Spruce, Ledum, Yarrow, and as they cut down trees, people see these as things that you need to cut down in those areas. So as those come in, Gary is planting more and more different types of botanicals to grow up there. Fantastic thing. This is our commitment to sustainability and continuous reforestation as well. Solala Oman, this is where our frankincense comes from. Who in here loves frankincense? Oh, I know, right? It's good enough for Jesus, good enough for me. So, we are the first and only company in the world to obtain permission to distill and export this precious essential oil into the Western world. So when other companies say, oh, we have Omani frankincense, they're lying. because Gary has built for years and years a relationship with the Sultan, and nobody else is allowed to do that. So just FYI, I'm across that at some point. Split, Croatia. This was founded in 2015, so that's when we got to go. Split Farm specializes in the production of helichrysum. That whole Dalmatia coast there is helichrysum grows wild, but everybody and their mother is trying to grab the helichrysum, and Gary has developed such techniques to actually nurture the helichrysum, and so it doesn't have to fight for its life all the time, so it can put its energy into growing better plants. So it's an amazing process. And everywhere we are, every farm that we go to, I want you to know so much about how good we uplift and the great influence we have on the communities there. The Croats are very happy that we're there, right? Major jobs, whether it's in the greenhouses in Split or out in the countryside at the actual farm. So just know that they're happy and living's there, and they know big things are coming, so it's pretty exciting. So those are the little bitty starts. And he was already harvesting later that summer. Yeah. So this is our commitment to the seal. Those are the Northern Lights at the Northern Lights farm. So as you grow your organizations, Young Living rewards you opportunities to visit the farms and things. So I just want you to know you're at the right place at the right time, right? And I want you to go to the farms. Like any opportunity you have, you should go. Now the foundation